All right, everybody. Well, welcome to class. Today is Thursday, March 26th, 3 p.m. And we're going to go ahead and get started with class. Again, just a couple reminders. I will use basically your names that pop up on the right-hand side as your attendance for this class, right? So I have a way of kind of determining what time you were on and how long you were on as well, so that you can get class credit for this, okay? Really, really important that you always do that. That type of thing. All right, let me think if there was any other announcements. YouTube, I started a channel last night, and I put up an announcement with a link. So I highly recommend that when you get a moment, click on that link and actually subscribe to that channel. In my effort to become a social influencer, I really want to, no, I'm just kidding. I want to make sure that you guys have access to files and be able to, use these for reviews. There'll be less than half-hour chunks, and really you can use those to help study for the final exam too. Okay, so let me go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna present. So when you see the PowerPoint presentation, just send me a note. I need to make sure that it shows up here as we're still trying to figure this out. Okay. Okay, let me know if you can see this. Anybody? All right. And can you guys see it? I mean, I just need can I get a verbal okay? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, good. Right.
Yeah, you're good. We can see it.
Cool. Excellent. Hey, so today what we're going to talk about is a construct within management called organizational behavior, right? And a lot of us kind of maybe have had some experience, or you've taken a class in psychology, and we know what kind of psychology looks like with individuals, in the homes, in personal life. But there's a whole study of psychology in the workplace. In the past, they've called it industrial psychology. But in more recent years, they've really settled on the term organizational behavior, and it's been around a while. So I actually uploaded some slides for you from another book on organizational behavior. They're actually in Canvas now, and then you'll actually be able to use these slides here as your guide. Make sure you read the chapter on organizational behavior in the text as well. But it's easier explained. Okay, if you want a crash course on organizational behavior and what not to do, honestly, just catch a couple episodes of The Office. Basically, the whole show is filled of what not to do, right? How to destroy employee morale, discrimination, HR, being asked to always leave the room, and poor Toby getting kicked out all the time. It's exactly what not to do. So I wanted to introduce you today, and not too deep, but just enough to kind of give you a flavor. One area of management, we talk about, in management, we organize. And one of the ways we organize is by putting the right people in the right positions with the right skill sets at the right times to get the right job done, right? That's why it's so important to hire the right people from the very beginning. So today we're going to talk about this idea of organizational behavior. So I start off with this slide on a company called Quicken Loans. And some of you may have heard about this company. I remember when they had actually initially come out with a software package called Quicken, which you were able to keep track of your checkbook and your banking transactions and that kind of stuff. They later came out with a version called QuickBooks that's used in business. But the reason I bring them up is they're very well known for being one of the country's most effective and successful companies in providing a very a culture of growth, of high employee morale, of people being promoted from within. So I wanted to give you guys a couple tips just before we even start of why companies like Quicken Loans have been highly successful, okay? One of the reasons is because they get their employees very involved, right? From the moment you start there, you're working on projects. They may even let you work on projects outside of your department and let you get a taste of something in a different area to see if it's what you might like. But they promote a be curious type of attitude, right? These outside projects, what they call bullet time events, are really interesting. Let's say you work in marketing, right? So 4.5 days a week you work in marketing, but you've always wanted to get a sense for, let's say, HR. Well, every Friday, the second half of the day, you go work at the department that you have some interest in. So imagine working for a company that lets you go just jump in on work group teams in other areas. Pretty cool. So high employee involvement is one of the things that they're very well known for. The second thing is employee development. Okay, now more than ever, employees don't quit their job. They generally quit their boss. They quit the culture that's been developed and passed on to them. So companies that promote a culture of developing their employees, training their employees, giving them a career path that they can follow to get to the next step, those are the type of companies that people, especially the younger generation, are looking for. There are some older generations that basically, hey, they may land a job and they're comfortable. They may say, hey, I don't need to search anywhere else. I don't need to do anything else. I don't mind working here for 30, 40 years doing the same thing. And that was just an element of the culture of that time. But Quicken Loans develops employees. You constantly know what avenues are open to you and where you may want to go next. They promote creativity. If you come up with an idea and it makes sense, you're rewarded for that. Okay. In a company that I previously worked for, one of the newer people came up with this idea of shifting from faxing to like e-faxing. This was when like fax machines were still kind of big, but they were moving into scanning. She had said that her mother was using this machine at work where they actually just, instead of making copies of documents and faxing them, they would actually just scan them one time, save them digitally, and then send them off. And this person introduced that idea, and about a year later received a check from this company that I work with because they promoted creativity. And if you save the company money, let's say you saved them $100,000, they would give you like, 1% of the savings or 2%. And if you're talking a couple $1,000,000, that could be a lot. She ended up getting a check, I think, for like $2,500 or $3,000. Again, because the company promoted a sense of culture that made its way from the top all the way down to the front lines. Companies that are focused on their customers. Now, you may have heard this, and it's a little bit cliche, but I'll tell you what, if you take care of the customer will then take care of the employee, and the employee will then take care of the company. There are companies out there that have a very strict policy towards their employees about providing a great customer service, but they treat their employees in a fashion that doesn't promote that. So employees end up quitting and they end up leaving the organization. But if you focus on, if you're a boss, who is your customer? Your employee. So treat them like your customer. As you know, in this class, we don't have students, right? We're what? Business partners, right? You're empowered. I give you the assignments. As long as you get them in on time, you can kind of manage your own schedule. You can send me drafts of your things and I'll look them over. But I know my customer. When you work in the workplace, you need to make sure you know who your customer is as well. But companies like Quicken Loans also take social responsibility as something that's very important. They spend time in the community offering to build houses and to do a variety of things. Currently right now, you look at Saddleback Church, and a lot of the churches, they've started ministries that are actually calling individual members and asking them how they're doing. My wife just got off a call. She's doing that daily now, where people might call and say, yeah, you know what, I'm feeling a little anxious, or I might have a question about something, or I can really use some encouragement. Well, churches were there. The other thing we're seeing is churches are on the front line of helping people that need groceries, basic things during this time right now. Churches are on the front line of doing that type of thing. And what a blessing that we have as Christians right now to minister, right? We're not meant to live in a spirit of fear, right? We know that the Lord is in ultimate control. But what a time to connect with those, to reach out to people that maybe you haven't talked to in a while, people that are maybe feeling scared, and using this time to minister to them. An incredible opportunity. All right, let's move on a little bit here. So let's look at this idea of organizational behavior and how it's defined. Organizational behavior is the study of what people think, what they feel, what they do in and around their organization, right? Organizational behavior is what people think, what they feel, what they do, how they act within the organization. Okay? And before, we talked about organizations earlier in the semester being defined as a group of people who work together towards a common goal, towards a collective purpose, right? That's an organization. And then we used examples of different types of organizations, right? Our class is a mini organization. It's got its own culture with the 45 of us, right? It's got a unique dynamic. And you could have left my class when we were meeting in person and gone to a class right afterwards. It might have had a completely different feel to it, right? The culture of that environment might be very different. So the reason I tell you this is I want you to start thinking about the different organizations and cultures that you find yourself associated with, and think about the things that are inspiring and encouraging, that could be helpful for other people. Because at some point, you will be a boss and you'll be leading people, and it's important that you know how to do that, and you understand some of the basics. In fact, you're already a leader, whether you know it or not, right? We are leading. We're leading people. You may be, have siblings that look up to you. You may have family members that look up to you. You may have friends that look up to you. You may have pets that count on your leadership in terms of being fed and that type of thing. So organizations are a really interesting thing, because you can have small organizations like your dorm floor, our classroom. Growing up, you had a group of friends that you probably hung out with, and that was kind of your little micro organization, maybe through high school. You may be part of a sports team or a government, student group, or you might be part of a Fortune 500 company. The key is an organization is a group of people that are working together towards a common purpose, and really understand that, right? Even within classes, I remember a group of students in a class years ago came up to me, and they were very gossipy in class. They were always kind of gossiping and stuff like that. And they came up to me and they said, Prof, we just realized that you should probably put us up there. We're a class clique, the four of us. We're not proud of it, but I guess that would qualify as an organization. And I said, well, let's run it through the definition. And sure enough, it was an organization within a larger organization. So there's subcultures and sub-organizations that we experience. If you work for a company and you go to the accounting department, it might have a very different feel than the sales department. So, you have a different feel within the same organization as well. Okay. Same thing with let's say In-N-Out Burger. If you go to In-N-Out Burger, or if you go to generally to Chick-fil-A, a lot of these organizations, which happen to be doing extremely well right now, whether you go to a location in San Diego or in Oregon, the general feel of Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out Burger is the same. The quality of the food tastes very similar. But I'll tell you what, where I'm at in South Orange County, you can go to the Taco Bell in Aliso Viejo, which I know one of you guys live up there. I can't remember who it was, but the Taco Bell there, the inside of it, it's a newer kind of Taco Bell, and it looks really nice. It's next to a Lowe's. It's got really nice architecture. The lighting is really nice. The service is high quality. Then you come down, 2 miles to one by my house, and, the speaker, the experience isn't that great. The quality of the service isn't that good. The people, different people that are working there, it sometimes feels like they don't want to be there. You could definitely feel the cultural difference even within two locations of the same organization. Okay? All right, let's move on. So why do we study organizational behavior? Well, we know that looking at the way organizations behave is a really good predictor of how the organization might survive It's a good predictor of how the organization might contract, when they need to. So really understanding how an organization behaves gives you insight into that organization, right? Understanding the behavior of an organization helps you know the type of people that you need to hire and the ones that maybe shouldn't be there. Knowing the behavior of an organization and nurturing a healthy cultural organization positions the organization for long-term success and long-term financial health. All right. In essence, organizational behavior is valuable for anyone who works within that organization. You get a feel of the culture. Um, what's interesting is some people get very excited about working for their dream company, and then maybe they go do an internship there, and what they thought in their mind the company was nothing like it really, really is. So that's why it's so important for you as you're interviewing and you're thinking about companies that you study the culture of a company. Now, you might ask, well, how do I do that if I'm just applying for a company? There's many places that you can research to begin looking at that. The first place is go online. Read newspaper articles regarding that organization. Are there any lawsuits? Why do people want to work there? Go to glassdoor.com. What are people getting paid there? What do employees have to say about that organization? Look at Yelp. There's enormous amount of resources that are available for us to understand a company and their culture that sometimes we don't take the time to do that because we're so desperate to land that next job that we settle. So my advice to you is make sure you understand and read about the companies that you're looking to interview with. At the very least, when you're at an interview, they may ask you, what do you know about our company? And if you haven't done that research, that really can hinder you. Okay? All right. Let's move on. So, when we step back and look at this field of organizational behavior, we look at this timeline and we could kind of look at a little bit of an evolution, if you will, a little bit of a emergence of different constructs that led us to where organizational behavior has moved to today. We go back into 400 years BC. You look at Plato and Confucius and their ideas of looking at ethics and leadership. You look at economists, Adam Smith, right? The Wealth of All Nations. He actually talked about job specialization, and that really comes to play here when we look at people in an organization specializing in one area while other people specialize in other areas, and then maybe you trade between countries. But even in economics, Smith was talking about organizational behavior, probably didn't use those terms, but he was talking about specialization, right? You look at Weber and Taylor, who really started introducing ideas about work processes and organizational theory and setting goals and that type of thing. You move into the 20s and 30s and you had people like Follett really moving into this idea of conflict, right? Conflict. And, one of the questions that we would talk about in class is conflict okay to have? And what's the difference between conflict and, let's say, opposition? Right? They're two different things. They have some similarities. There is some overlap, but understanding what the difference between conflict and opposition is, and understanding, are they healthy or not? You continue to look into Bernard. He really looked at communication within organizations. How do people talk to each other? How do people inspire each other? Okay. But if you really want to study organizational behavior and consider the people who popularized it and actually called it organizational behavior, is you got Mayo and Roethlisberger in the late 20s and going into the 40s. And remember, think about what was going on during that time. You started going into the Depression and leading up to World War II. They were Harvard professors who really started thinking deeply about the attitudes of the workplace, team dynamics, how formal and informal groups work together in the workplace. And they actually established, you could actually say they established the scientific study of organizational behavior as it is today, at least the foundation of it. They studied organizational behavior in the Human Relations School of Management at Harvard University. Okay, but think about it. It's really less than 100 years old. It's about maybe 80 years old. So this whole idea of studying the way people act and communicate and beliefs and values in the workplace is not that old. Okay, a lot of it probably had to do with work prior to that time was more manual labor. So I don't know the type of relationship bosses had with their employees. You know, it might have been very directive, and they just did what they needed to do and that type of thing. Whereas as we went into the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, employees started having more of a voice and communicating and interacting back and forth with their employers. And that's where we saw the need to understand communication and the process of the communication in the workplace. Okay, organizational effectiveness. Well, you remember we looked at efficiency and we looked at effectiveness before in the mindset of management. But let's look at what organizational effectiveness means in the world of organizational behavior. Okay, organizational effectiveness is the efficiency with which an organization is able to meet its objectives. Well, very similar to what what it means in effectiveness means to management, right? We talked about the difference between efficiency and effectiveness, and we talked about companies being efficiency versus effective, and we actually even looked at this slide, and we looked at companies like Toyota, who's both efficient and effective. They have maximized the resources, lowered their costs, but also have been highly effective in selling many, many cars. Whereas you look at things like the Sony Walkman or maybe even like the fidget spinner, who you may be able to produce that efficiently, but there's not a demand for it right now, and people aren't buying it really that much. Okay. All right, let me see if I think there was one more thing I wanted to show you guys here when we look at organizations here. These are more in-depth org behavior concepts that you don't need to know about. We had a slide similar to this before, and I think this is worth reviewing with you. And that's the fact that people that have some type of vested interest in an organization is considered a stakeholder, right? If you shop quite a bit at Trader Joe's, you have a vested interest in Trader Joe's. If they close down, that can impact you to some extent, right? Whether it's going to drive to another type of store or go eat out instead, right? When you look at an organization, it's customers, it's employees, suppliers, venture partners, stockholders, special interest groups, whether it's the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts or, schools, they all have some type of vested interest in that organization, right? So some people get stakeholders and stockholders confused with each other, and they're not really the exact same thing. Okay, they're not really the exact same thing. All right, so I wanted that's what I wanted to go through with you today. Again, I want to keep these at half an hour chunks. I will be reviewing these myself in order to get some material for the exam. And obviously I'll be looking at the book as well, the textbook that you're reading and picking some things from there as we go through the course, okay? Let me pause there. And that's the extent of material that I wanted to cover today. Let me go ahead, if anybody's got a question, I would probably recommend the chat of the question if anybody has a question in that respect. So I'm going to give it just a couple seconds here and do that. If not, I'm trying to think of any other announcements. So every Tuesday and Thursday we'll have this class. If you notice, the last 2 weeks of the semester, it was made for presentations. So we may not actually have class at that point, but you will be doing your SWOT analysis individually, and you will be, uploading that to Blackboard, or sending me a link within Blackboard or something so that I can actually look at that. So remind me on Tuesday, and I'll give you more specific instructions. Let me see. So that's regarding the individual SWOT analysis that you'll be doing individually, probably 5 to 7 minutes, and you're going to upload them, and I will grade that as your final presentation individually. The slides, I think they were due next week. Can anybody give me a date? I think it's I think it was due. Let's see. I think it's today's. I think it was due next week. I can't remember not the video dates. The date when your final slides are due. If you look on your syllabus, I think it's about 2 weeks. Okay, it says the 5th. All right, I'm going to give you guys one more week. So I'm going to give you guys till April, what's that, 12th, to do your final presentation slides, because that's the last thing you'll be doing as a team, and you'll be working together, and I will be grading those slides, whatever you send me. So I'm going to give you one more week to do your presentations. They're due on the 12th. That's your final one, right? So again, if it's incomplete, if you have typos, if there's like different types of fonts where you can tell different people worked on it and didn't come together and make it cohesive, that will definitely impact your grade. So on the 12th, you want to turn in your final product. Now, if you want to email me your final slides prior to that, like a week or so beforehand, I'll go through it and I'll give you some feedback. And that should help you with your grade if in fact there is no, if there's anything we need to do. Okay. The presentation slides isn't popping up in Canvas. I believe, well, it's probably not popping up because I haven't published the grades yet. So I'll make sure it's all up for you guys. I also saw a couple more questions. How many slides should we have? You know what? The presentation was as if you were going to do it all together, right? So I'm guessing ballpark-ish. You figure your cover page, maybe a one-page introduction to the company. Then you go into your strengths, a slide for your weaknesses, a slide for your opportunities, a slide for your threats. Then maybe a slide or two for your recommendations, and then maybe a final slide, that says maybe thank you, and then your sources. So I'm guessing about 10-ish. Okay, about 10-ish slides. Let me think what else here I was going to tell you guys. Yes, we are always going to use this link for our conference call. So it's not going to change every week. I set it up so that you can always go back to the link in Canvas and just click on that. Or if you want to, put it on your Google Calendar, this is the exact link that we'll use every single week for this class. Okay. Let me see if there's any other questions. So what are the exact dates for the team presentations and the slides? Okay, so just to be clear, the slides will be due on April 12th, and I will send you the final date of your actual presentation. And again, a reminder, your final presentation is not a team presentation with all 4 of you or all 5 of you. Your final presentation grade will be based on a 5 to 7 minute video that each one of you produce in YouTube or whatever it is, in a file that you upload to Blackboard. And it's important that you don't just send me an email to a link, because I need something in the system that is there for your grade in case we ever need to go back to it or something like that to document that. So please make sure that you attach a link. What a lot of people do is if a file's too big, they just go on to Blackboard and then they just put a note with the link on there. and then I can look at it that way. Okay, but that's what your grade is going to be based on, and that's when I'll look at that. Okay. Let me see here. I'm trying to think of what else. What other questions do you guys have? Okay, wait, hold on a second. Natalie, is the final presentation a summary of our 10 slides? Yes, great question. So your 10 slides, and then the 5 to 7 minutes is you presenting those slides each individually. Okay. Let's see. I don't see any other questions. Any other questions, guys? Are there specific things about the video of the presentation? Are there specific things about the video of the presentation? Well, I mean, a lot of people just attach a file when they upload it, just like they would a Word doc. Other people go in and then we'll put the link in the actual delivery in the message, in the comment, and in the assignment. So that's that. Okay. But as long as I can look at it and it's in Canvas, I'm good. So if you want to do a test run of something and upload just something, a short one for practice on Canvas, feel free to do that. I'll give you guys unlimited access. So if you need to upload a couple to practice and just to make sure it takes, we can do that. Do we need to dress business casual for the presentation? You know what? You want to look good for your presentation, right? So if you're doing something on Best Buy, what would you look at if you were presenting to Best Buy? You know, maybe you're wearing a blue shirt. Maybe you're dressing up. Okay. I would recommend looking the part of that. You know, for some of you, you might say, hey, I'm going to dress up in a suit. Well, great. You know what? Play like you practice. If you show up in a tank top and a baseball cap, you know, that's not the way you present. Like, don't go shopping for any new clothes, but be the best you that you can. For some of you, it might be a suit if you want. For others, it might be just, you know, a gentleman, it might be just a nice button-down shirt with a jacket or no jacket, but, you know, nice business casual, right? It really depends on the feel of the organization. Now, one last thing I'll tell you is make sure that when you present, you are not presenting to Jake, Professor Aguas. You are not presenting to your classmates. You are presenting to the company. So your video should start off with like, hey, thank you so much, Best Buy, for allowing me to come in and make a presentation to you today regarding, you know, the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats of your company. And thank you for allowing me in advance the opportunity to make some recommendations that can really help make your company better. So that's the tone and the lens that you need to deliver this presentation in, okay? Pretend you're delivering in front of the company and you're communicating to them. Don't butter things up and just share the good stuff. At the same time, don't destroy them on things that are bad. Be constructive in the way that you present it, okay? Any other questions that you guys want to ask me? All right, I think we're good. All right, so I am going to go ahead and allow you guys the opportunity to sign off. I will post this video up by this evening, so you'll have that. And we'll be back here again on Tuesday. And I believe the next week, we'll be talking about leadership, okay, and that type of thing. All right. So listen, have a wonderful afternoon. Take care of yourselves. I am going to leave this line open right now for you know, as long as anybody wants, for regular office hours. So if you have a question, feel free to stay on. If you want to, you know, get to me offline, if it's more private and you don't want to wait on here, go ahead and just send me an email and I can call you back and we can do a video chat that way at some point, that type of thing. Okay. Hey, listen, I'll be praying for you guys. Thank you for everything. Have a great afternoon and we'll talk soon. Okay. See ya. Okay, so we got Mitch on. Hey, Mitch, anything I can support you with, brother? So maybe you're on mute, Mitch. I can't hear you. There you go.
Michael just said that one of my friends from high school said hi to me, and so I was just making sure I said hi back to him.
Okay, all right, you're cool. Awesome, brother. Have a
Oh, yeah.
wonderful one, and we'll catch you soon.
Thank you.
All right, brother. See ya. Aiden, I see you're on there. Anything that I can help you with?
Hey, yeah, I just have one kind of quick question. Is you're someone from the business world, and that's being shaken up quite a bit right now. Um, just specifically, have you seen like any specific examples of companies like taking steps to protect their employees or provide for their employees? Just anything that's stood out to you?
That's a great question. Well, there's been some new laws that just came out that basically the government is saying, listen, if you want to pay your employees for 2 weeks of let's say they're calling it sick leave because employees want to stay home with their families, they want to stay in quarantine, they have kids to care for, whatever the case may be, the government is saying we recommend that if it's an essential business that you pay them, and in exchange what we'll do at the end of the year is you can deduct that from your taxes, so you as a business aren't forking over all this money. We're gonna give you credit for that. So I'm seeing that happen. Larger companies are saying, listen, you're good, at least for a couple months. Some companies are just being honest and saying, listen, we know we're good for the next month, but we don't know what we're going to do after that. So they're being honest with their employees, and then other companies are going the other way, are saying, oh, everything is fine, you have nothing to worry about, but then behind closed doors they're like, listen, who are we firing, and what are we doing? And they're not being open and honest with their employees. So you can see a lot about character in these type of situations. Some companies are paying their employees more per hour. Like Walmart and I think Costco are paying like $2 more per hour because those employees are exposed to getting the virus. I mean, that's tough. So we're seeing more compensation. You're seeing insurance companies offer to cover the coronavirus test and checkups for free. So we're seeing those type of things. And then you're seeing large companies making big donations to smaller organizations and communities to help them kind of survive during this time too. So those are some of the things that I've seen.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Cool. Awesome. Anything else? Or are you good?
I'm good. Thank
All right,
you.
brother. All right, man. Listen, take care. We'll see you on Tuesday, okay?
Yeah, you too, man. See ya.
All right, brother. Mr. Marwan. I don't see the beanie.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you, bro?
I'm doing pretty good. I think Christian asked inside the chat earlier about like how the presentation is going to go, or like with the slides, since all the slides are going to be on our computer, like how it's going to work.
You don't have to do your slides when you present. The slides are one email, and then you just present face to face to me.
Oh, so is it like a summary? So like we're not going slide by slide then?
Well, you can have it next to you if you want to, but you don't have to present that to me.
But you wouldn't know which slide we're on.
Yeah, I don't want to make it difficult. I'll know because I'll have your slides, and I could follow along. Hey, if I lose you guys, my computer might die in a minute. So just in case, I know Christian, I owe Christian a call back, but just in case, you'll know why.
All
right, cool.
Well, everybody else's questions.
All right, cool. Yeah, anything else I can help you with, brother?
No, thank you so much, though.
All right, brother. Take care of yourself, man.
You too.
All right, see ya.
I'll see you.
All right, cool. Hey, Ross, anything, Ross, you need? Ross?
Oh yeah, I just asked the question in the chat. I didn't know it was the same link, so I unfortunately came a few minutes late. I hope I was okay on attendance with that.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So yeah, it's the same link every class.
Okay, thank you.
All right, brother. Hey, have a good one, man. Take care of yourself. Now, where's home for you?
Home is all the way down in RSM. It's basically an hour away. It's near Mission Viejo.
And dude, it's only 25 minutes away, dude. I live in Laguna Niguel.
That's nice.
Yeah, Marwan is down in San Clemente, so he's pretty close too, man. We should go to Wingstop. That's what we should do.
Let's hope Wingstop's not over-infected.
No, hopefully not. But yeah, there's a Wingstop in RSM. There's one in Lake Forest, and there's one by
Yep.
Marwan by his high school in San Clemente too. So, anyways, well, cool, brother. Anything else I can help you with? You good?
I think I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome, bro. Listen, take care of yourself. All right. Don't be out going crazy out in the out in the streets with people and stuff like that. Like,
Don't
take care of
worry.
yourself,
I
okay?
have enough. I have enough games to keep myself occupied inside the house forever.
Dude, I'm serious. It's like just make sure you have a good gaming console with a good gaming headset
Oh, of course.
and stuff and everything. So have fun, man. Take care of yourself. We'll see you soon.
You as well. Have a good one.
All right, brother.
All right, hey, Prof.
Hey, brother. Okay. Hey, so if I lose you, I'll call you on the phone. But
Okay.
what's going on?
Just I don't know. Okay, so I am not sure why for marketing. So I'm taking intro to marketing and
I'll tell you what. Let me get my power cord.
Okay.
That way I can stay connected on this call. Hold on.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, no way. So so I'm in this intro to marketing class, and this professor, this professor's brand new, and we have an assignment called the Marketing U project. Basically, her way of actually planting. On a side note, the recording sign is still on. I'm not sure if you.
Let me turn it off.
Yeah.